Hello and welcome back to the HH Gaming podcast brought to you by Hellhades.com. Today we are joined by a man that needs no introduction whatsoever, Mr. Deadwood Jedi. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking to us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. No introduction needed, but given anyway and appreciated.
It's taken us a lot of convincing. Really, it was pretty much Deadwood. We've been trying to get you on this podcast. Well, actually, we've been trying to get you on this podcast.
We cornered him in a meeting last night, and he had no choice but to accept.
When we
I wanted to get some sleep, and I was like, I have to say yes. Is the only way I'm going to get out of this. So, okay, fine, I'll do it. Jeez, stop asking.
We actually started the podcast, and one of the first things we were saying, we should have someone like Deadwood on the podcast. Your website, Clan Boss Calculator, expose it to more people, and it's just for some reason we've just never got around to it until now. It's
I think we originally asked you before Christmas, and then everything got crazy then. But it was actually when Hydra came out. I think that was when we were originally going to get you on to talk about it. But I mean, that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, because obviously with Hydra, everyone loves the content. It's the best thing that Raid's dropped so far. I nearly kept a straight face there.
But you nailed it.
But yeah, so as somebody who primarily focuses on clan kind of clan boss content, I guess, within the game, and somebody who's as known as you are in the community for being able to map out and build pretty much everyone in Raid's clan boss team, how are you finding, I guess, the launch of Hydra, and I guess what are you guys looking at in terms of, is it possible to speed tune it?
God damn it. All right. So
that's a hard question.
My most dreaded question.
Chuck him in the deep end. It's fine.
That's fair.
We got Baby Yoda here to support our Deadwood Jedi. It's fine.
I appreciate it. As far as the content goes, one thing that we always have to remind ourselves, it's so easy in any kind of gaming thing, and just goes for online stuff. We have this kind of culture where it's like we expect instant gratification and things to change so quickly, because it does, but we also have to remember, like, it's still real life. Things aren't instant. So, and if we have any experience with Plarium, it's that they're not fast with updates, changes, fixes. They don't play test their stuff. I don't think they play tested at all, but they certainly don't play tested enough to understand what's actually happening, what's coming through. So it's so in my opinion, like, look, what we have right now is the first iteration of it. I expect changes. I expect fixes. I expect it to get better over time, much like they've done with Doom Tower. They balanced that, much like they did with Faction Wars when it first came out. These things are going to improve over time. So kind of, you got to keep that caveat in that, because I know most people absolutely hate Hydra, and I don't blame them for that. And that's valid, because it's a part of the game that's, in reality, is designed completely different from every other part. It's the only part of the game where you have to manual it.
Yep.
There's no, there's an auto button, but there's not an auto functionality to it, right? There's so much RNG involved that it's not practical to be able to do that when you can run the same team with no changes and swing anywhere from 5 to 30 million in damage just based off the random chance involved. That's not auto friendly at all. So that becomes a real big hassle for people, not to mention the fact that this is very end game content. This is the most end game content we have.
Yep.
There's, Doom Tower's end game. This is beyond that as far as the gear, the requirements, the champions that you need to use. And so we have to kind of keep that part involved. And then, and there's a lot of things about it that are problematic. The fact that it's clan focused is great if you're in an end game clan, but when you're still trying to struggle your way through Doom Tower and you feel this responsibility of, I have to do good to help my clanmates out, and you just can't because you don't have the gear, you don't have the champions, and you don't have the time. That's a very problematic thing for the player base to like go through. And so Hydra becomes something that's really unfun for a lot of people, and even stressful. Like this is something I say because I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that other people are going through the same struggles that you are. I have members, more than one, definitely more than one, several members in my clan where Hydra's triggering. Like, they hear the name and gives them stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They mute certain channels in my own Discord, my clan's Discord, because they just can't handle it. That's a problem. That's like a real issue.
So. Yeah, it's a small issue, you know.
Small issue, right? And the thing is, if that was just one person dealing with it, I'd be like, okay, I get it. But it's not. It's, you know, there's a significant portion of my clan. And I'm like, you know, not to like throw my own name out there, but like I'm Deadwood Jedi. I have people that come in my clan are acknowledging what I do. I do content for this game. I focus on things like Clan Boss, on things like Hydra. So generally they're in there for that kind of, that's something that interests them. For this to trigger those people, that's a real big issue. Now, those are like the negatives, right? The big overarching problem. I enjoy Hydra to a great extent because I like problem solving. It's why I like Clan Boss. I was going
to say, it's the first time I've heard that one.
Yeah, this is one of the few. This is something that I enjoy. Now, it's very frustrating and it's less enjoyable than it should be because of all the RNG involved, all the random chance and stuff. But there is a part of that where it's like, this is a tough nut to crack. How can I crack it?
You can't and so basically, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, you know, it's one of the things that this is why I like this game, is because they provide you with these challenges. They provide you with all these different options, not only in champions, but in gear, speeds, you know, all the different things that you have to kind of factor in. And so it becomes this puzzle where you're trying to take all these different pieces and put them together and hopefully get that damage that you're looking for. And in that respect, I really enjoy it. It's just, there's so much random chance involved. So you asked, can I speed tune this to bring this back? Can we speed tune this? Yes and no. You can speed adjust it, right? You can come up with ideas and, you know, there's certain like overarching ideas on how you want to go about tuning your team. But to say, I'm going to get a speed tune where I know exactly what's going to happen at every point in this fight, that's impossible. Yeah. It's impossible because there is so much RNG involved in this. Even if you like, there's RNG from the very basics, whether it comes down to which champion's getting eaten and when they get released from being eaten, right? You still have to do enough damage to free them. Yep. You know, not to mention the affinities. So like, am I critting? Am I not critting on certain things? Are my debuffs landing? Are they not landing on certain things? The different speeds of the heads makes it, you know, so that, you know, having that regular turn is very difficult to even predict. And then on top of that, you don't know what head's going to pop back up when you kill a head, right? And that just throws the entire rotation out because now you don't even have the predictability of the same skills being used by the enemy. Not to mention, there's still things like, are buffs being stolen by the head of mischief? Is that true fear that is irresistible? I cannot believe they did that. The irresistible true fear from the head of torment. Is that proccing or not? That's a 50-50 shot. You never know. So as far as like the way the game works, as far as this part of the game, there's so much RNG that it's very frustrating. You know, even as a puzzle solving exercise, it's very frustrating because there aren't enough variables that I can rely upon to happen the same time every single time. There's too much random in this to make it enjoyable. I don't have to build a calculator for it to be fun. I don't have to have it speed tuned for it to be fun, but I need a certain level of reliability so that I'm not spending 5 hours in a day to get one key to an acceptable level of damage. Yep. You know, that should never have to happen. And that is what's happening right now. And that's a major issue for the game as a whole. Not to mention the difficulty levels of this, they scales very rapidly. You know, because the normal is not like the requirements for normal aren't super hard. But, you know, obviously it's going to be it's still super end game content. So it's not accessible by everybody. But I was able to build a free to play team that was able to take down one key normal. Not like it was my only run of it, but it's definitely a very doable thing. But the difference between normal and hard is huge. Like a chasm. The difference between hard and brutal is a chasm. The difference between brutal and nightmare is a chasm. And it has nothing to do with the damage or the HP. it has everything to do with the accuracy, the resistance, and the speeds of those heads, because they scale incredibly fast. And the amount of resistance you need versus accuracy is such a big difference. Yeah. You know, their accuracy levels are so high. You have to build like plat level resistance to even resist the heads when you're trying to run these teams. You have to build, gold forward level accuracy to land any debuffs on them because of the resistance they have. Like, it's frustrating. I don't really necessarily mind those requirements, but there isn't that entry level spot for new players, for early, mid-level accounts, even late game accounts, to really dip their toes into it and get excited for it. And that's an issue because, people should be excited about this. This is one of the coolest bosses we've ever had. It's one of the coolest mechanics they have. Like, the fact these heads eat people is cool, that the heads pop off and then they're reborn. It's cool. Like, it's very cool, but there's too much RNG involved and the difficulty level is too high for the majority of this player base. And that's a major problem with it right now. And I think, honestly, like, I have issues with, like, I can go down each and every single head and say, I don't like this mechanic. Yeah. I don't like that mechanic. Sure this is a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
But the overall thing is, like, the RNG, especially about which head pops back up, and the difficulty level. Those are the two things they absolutely need to fix. I think if you fix those two things, all of a sudden you have a totally fun, viable part of this game, where all of a sudden an auto run has more. It becomes easier to do. Maybe you still can't do it, but at least it's easier to do. And there's an entry level for players that are really struggling that can still have some fun with it. Like, you look at easy clan boss, you can still do easy clan boss without mastering champions, right? It's entry level. You can get into it. You can be like, hey, I'm just starting playing this game, but I want to join a clan. Well, you can kind of come in our clan. We're just hit the lowest level clan boss. That's where we're at right now. And, you grow from that. And I think that, Hydra needs something like that, even if it's not like, hey, you're 5 days in, join our clan, but like, at least it's like, look, you're being able to take on Brutal and Nightmare and Clan Boss. You could still do the easy level of Hydra, which of course doesn't exist.
That's the thing, though. The difference between Clan Boss, as you say, and Hydra is being able to contribute as a member of a clan, I guess. You can be an Ultra Nightmare hitter, but not even be able to one key easy.
And there's no easy, by the way. There's normal.
Oh, sorry.
There is no easy.
Normal. Yeah.
I think this rotation, the easy, like the normal stage, is more accessible than, say, the last one, because it was kind of like that relationship between the Mischief head and the decay head together was just so incredibly strong. Because you'd lose like 50% turn meter for Mischief, he would get that back. Then he gets 30% turn meter from the Decay, and then they start spreading buffs. So most players, before they even got beyond like 4 turns, were already like, right, well, my main goal is gone because those two heads have just ruined it. At least with this one, you only have to deal with the Mischief head, and you don't have to deal with the Decay as well, cleansing all the debuffs, boosting turn meter and all that kind of stuff. For me, I think, like, I've enjoyed this rotation more. When it first came out, I hated Rotation 1. I thought it was like so terribly designed, they'd have to fix it immediately. I didn't like the deterrent strategy. I felt that was like, some people thought it was good because it was theorycraft, and I thought it was just like, she's trying to, like, no, I didn't like it. I didn't think it felt right. It felt like you were trying to be a bit more exploitive about the way that it's designed to work because you found the bug.
Well, the mechanic from Shamail was broken. It was flat broken, and so the deterrent strategy took advantage of the brokenness. So it was something where, like, I thought it was a great idea. Nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's also like there's no longevity to it because you knew they would end up fixing because it was too broken. You know what I mean?
So too strong. Yeah. So I mean, like, I think you covered many of the points that I made. I did a video a couple of weeks ago on, how can we save it from being, I've got Mithrala, what's Hydra? Which is, I think, where most of the player base is at. Once they get Mithrala, unless there is another incentive, they're not going to want to go and do it again because they don't really care about Stone Skin and protection, because realistically, they're only going to use that in high-end PvP or maybe in some niche scenarios. Because, again, in all our speedrun dungeons and all our Doom Tower, if we've got something that only works 50% of the time, we're not going to do it. It's not going to be something that we would choose to do. So the protection set in its design is amazing, in its implementation, useless. in that sense, because unless we can guarantee that that buff is not going to get stolen in an environment, then it's always going to be difficult to run it. And that's why Brogni is so good, is because you know his shield will always be up against something like Griffin. You always have the shield. Now, if you think, okay, well, Griffin, if I can stop him stealing buffs, that reduces his damage, that's amazing. But if I don't know which buffs are going to stay and which ones are going to be protected, there's not much place for both sets outside of extremely niche Platinum Arena scenarios. I think that's what it comes down to. So once I got Mithrala, why am I doing Hydra? That's a problem for me. The clan XP is pointless and the gold is good, but it's not essentially worth it for people, compared to what you get from Clan Boss, right?
Yeah. I agree with you. I think the rewards don't incentivize people enough to spend the time and the effort to do Hydra, right? If you're struggling with it, if this isn't something that interests you or you're struggling, the rewards aren't going to get you excited about it, right? One of the great things about Clan Boss is they give you shards, and shards are exciting.
I was going to say that's why I do Clan Boss every single day.
So much,
and it's interesting. I think it's interesting that they didn't put shards in this. And I know part of the reason, right? Shards is their main income, so they don't want to give us more of them. But I do feel like that would be the kind of incentive you want to give to people, right? And they didn't do that, which is unfortunate. Now, if they gave us books or they gave us shards, it'd be something where people would be like, oh yeah. And it's kind of interesting to me because I'm like, shards are cheap. Shards cost them nothing. And like the chance of actually getting the champion you want is slim, and they keep adding more champions. So there's always more champions you're going to want to get. So like the value of shards never changes. So it doesn't make sense why they wouldn't just include that in there. It seems kind of silly to me.
So
but
it's a weekly reward as well. So it's not like they're getting, a daily reward. So you can just give them like one void shard a week or one sacred shard a week. People basically complain about losing a sacred shard a month. So if you give them a void a week, they can think, this is amazing. This is cool. So exactly. I agree. I think if they just did that, it's not a cost to them, is it? It's not a big thing.
In that respect, I think that was a mistake, especially because like nobody likes getting fragments. I like my Doom Tower champions, but I'm never excited when I get them. I never push Doom Tower for the fragments. I'd push Doom Tower because I want, honestly, so I can farm the gear, right? Like, I do it because I need to do it. I don't really do it because like I want to, and I don't care about the fragment champions. I just did that video on Varl, and like great Doom Tower champion. Did I push Doom Tower so I could get him? No, honestly, he was sitting in fragment form for like 3 weeks. I just hadn't pulled him. I wasn't excited about him. I'm like, I don't care. That's never exciting thing for me. I want the shards. I like the excitement of pulling the champion. I like having champions, but like nobody's excited about that. Like even Mithrala, great champion, gonna be awesome. Am I excited to get fragments for her? Nope. Don't care. Now, one thing I will push back on is the gear sets we're getting. I think there's definitely value with stone skin with protection sets in things like dungeons, in things like Doom Tower. Maybe the 50% isn't great for things like Scarab where they steal your buffs, but Scarab's pretty rare. It's like the one boss that does that. Most of them don't. And it still offers a lot of survivability for you if you're struggling with that stuff, right? It's still a very good set and gives you a lot of extra bonuses on top of it. Does it mean that it's the meta for dungeons and things like that? No, but I think there is still value in those sets, especially when even one piece gives you something.
I think the value is in the mythic. So what I do like, and I think they learned from this from the Platinum Arena reset, where it was almost like, okay, great, you finished in Platinum, you got some Swift Parry rewards. This is before we had the Forge, and people were like, well, I can't do anything because I'm getting so few pieces, I cannot build a 4-piece set. They learned from that and created a variable set. Great, we love this. The problem is the actual like feature of the set is a bit weak, if that makes sense. So what I think is actually going to be really powerful is when you start hitting Nightmare Brutal and you get that one mythic that's rolled an extra one on crit rate, and then it rolls again and again. And now you've got essentially almost like a 2-piece bonus, like say like it rolls like the HP percentage. Then to me, those things are really valuable and desirable. The issue is the rates on those mythic artifacts are too low. I did the math on it. You're talking 70 reliably usable pieces if we exclude things like flat stats, about 70 mythic 6 stars in a year if you're doing nightmare and brutal top chests and you're killing both bosses, which is already very hard for most people. It's just that's too low. And I'm assuming, and I'll give them the credit, that they're probably going to do an ultra nightmare and the rates will go up and all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of like people are going to look at it through their kind of glass lens and go, okay, well, Stone Skin, the buff itself, which is the feature, is kind of a Platinum Arena thing because you can't reapply it with the artifact set. So I might take the piece for the 1 or 2 variable piece, but I'm not going to break my Swift Parry. I'm not really going to break my regen sets. I'm not going to break my Savage sets for one of those 2.
Well, let's look a little bit further down the road because, like we said, it's only been around for like a couple months. So you're not going to break your sets right now, but in a year, when you have enough of that gear, all of a sudden you start looking. There's like Swift Parry's been the meta for a while now, maybe over a year or so.
Yeah,
and it's not nobody likes it, but I mean that's kind of been the meta for a while. Give this 3 or 4 months, you're going to see Stone. I'm already seeing Stone Skin in a lot of arena teams.
I mean,
right?
Platinum Arena, huge, absolutely.
But it's not just in Platinum. Like I'm starting to see it in Gold 4. And you're going to see it trickle down. It's going to be something that everybody's going to need to have at some point for particular builds or teams or whatever. Yeah. It's just part of it, right? Especially with the year of PvP that we're having. The year of PvP.
Yeah. We talked about that actually in the last podcast before last.
It's one of those things where it's like these. I think there's a fundamental disconnect. And this has been something that I think has always been the case. There's a fundamental disconnect between what Plarium thinks people want and what people want. Now let's give them credit where credit's due. They're marketing geniuses. They definitely know how to get people to spend the money, but what drives, but they have these huge misses like gold, like 3v3 arena, huge miss. I mean, even to this day, nobody likes doing it. We do it because we get the rewards, but how many people are stuck in bronze 1 and don't give a crap?
Yeah.
If you look at the way even the highest tiers, gold 4, or I'm in gold 3 every single week. Half the people put in a 1-man defense, fall to the bottom so they can farm it easy, and then they climb back up on Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. That's what you do. And it's if that is a system that is happening consistently, there's a problem with how it's built.
Yes.
That's dumb.
And also it's limited capacity, right? They've got it's Plat Arena all over again. When they built it, it wasn't like you could say, well, when they built Plat Arena, they didn't realize how big it was going to be. They made a system where there was so few people could actually get into the top tiers, and then they capped the rewards based on the tiers you're getting into, which meant not only were you sitting there going, well, unless you're the best, you can't get in. And then we're going to make the best a very small pool of people. And then we're going to make it really hard. And people just went, I'm not going to bother at all. It's kind of like that. It's that gap again, even in normal arena that we've got going on at the moment, and in Hydra to some extent. They have a very clear philosophy. People doing it not at all. There's no middle ground.
They have a very clear philosophy of everything's competitive, everything, even within your clan. If you look, even if you look at the drop rates of Clan Boss, if you're the top 3 finisher, you get more rewards than the rest of your clan. Like, what sense does that make? Why should I be competing with my clanmates to do more damage?
Is that I thought they patched that out ages ago? Did they? Or
did they patch that out?
I think they patched that out ages ago. Either that or it was misrepresented, because it's certainly not there now, I don't think.
Okay. Well, even so, like, that's something they put in. That is a terrible idea. Like, the way that what is it called? Like CBC rewards. Like, you have to win in order to get it. Like, everything's competitive with them. It's like they're running a sports team. It's the dumbest thing, because you don't have this idea of camaraderie built up. And so, they've always done that, whether, the Plat Arena making it super small, so you have to be competitive to get in. 3v3 is kind of the same thing. It's very, it's super frustrating.
Elite room, essentially. Elite room of people. And then if you want to be at everything you do, you have to compete to get into that elite room. The problem is people want to compete. They've just made a lot of it very hard to then enter. They've made it too small.
But I guess in a way, that's the marketing. because you've got that drive to want to be there, and to be able to get there, you need what they have. And
you need to spend that money, get that credit card out, start chinging, and that makes sense, right? So one of the things like I've changed my approach is like I try to not complain about that anymore, because that's not changing. That's their philosophy. That's their baseline. So like, I can't change, if my girl's going to be, just like always wants the place spotlessly clean. I'm like, look, I can keep it tidy. I ain't going to keep it that spotlessly clean. That's just not who I am. I can't ever expect her to change, right? That's what she wants. If I get in that relationship, we get married, go down the road. Look, that's always going to be a point of friction. That ain't going to change. That's just who she is, right? Like, why would I mess with that? So I understand that. So I'm not gonna mess with that, but we can definitely make some changes that make things better for people as we're going through it. Right. So like, obviously improving the rewards for Hydra would be a great solution. Mm-hmm. Removing some of the RNG would be a great solution. I'm not even a proponent of removing all of it. Like, I don't think this needs to be a speed tune type of thing, but we should be able to make it a little bit more auto-friendly. We should be able to make it a little bit more predictable. Let's remove the random head respawn. Like, give me my 100%. 4 heads and keep my 4 heads, so I know exactly what I'm getting every single time. Yep. Or if you really want that 6 head thing, let me know which head's coming up next. Don't make it random. At least tell me the next one that's coming so I can predict it and deal with it, right?
It's just like that strategy concept in strategy games and things like TFT, for example. It's random. Have you ever played TFT? That kind of, so TFT, you basically get like a deck of cards, and then you pick a series of different characters, and those characters interact with each other in a certain way, which means you can build different teams and comps. Very much like collecting different champions in Raid. But the thing is, everything they do is random. The cards you get, the characters you pick, the icons, it's all random. But you can still make strategic decisions that you either win or you lose. Yes, there'll be scenarios in it where you just go, do you know what? I got really terrible luck. But what we've got in Hydra right now is I can get the best luck or the worst luck, and none of my decision-making strategic approach to it would be like I lose my control. So if I don't get the torment head, then it's not like I can make a step-by-step decision. It was a good way of explaining it, really. It's that kind of thing of, it's not a problem, it's not auto, because as long as in each manual step I can choose to make a decision which I can control and get a good outcome for, then it's fine, because players are going, all right, I need to adapt, I need to change as I go through the fight. But the problem is, when you try to adapt, the RNG goes, that thing ain't going to work anymore, you might as well just start again.
Yeah. I mean, this is why issues like the Torment Head, and the Torment Head is the one, for those that aren't following what we're talking about, the Torment Head is the one that places that True Fear on you every single time you attack it. It's irresistible. And True Fear is a 50-50 shot of whether you're going to, lose your turn or not, and your skill.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. One, they made it as True Fear, which is like just a dick move. Because like, I need my cleanse. Well, I'm going to need it now. I lost it now for another cycle of cooldowns. One, they could have made it fear. That would have made it a lot more manageable. Two, the fact that we can't resist it means that, like you were talking about, that decision of how I built my team is now taken from me. It doesn't matter. So now I'm forced to bring in champions to deal with that, except that they don't offer enough champions to deal with that. Not enough champions give you perfect veil. And only Shamail blocks, I'm dropping my coffee here, and only Shamail blocks, kind of instantly removes it. So it's like, you're not giving us the options to deal with it outside of like literally like 3 or 4 champions. And if I don't deal with it, the punishment is so severe, there's no real recovery from that. That becomes a major impediment.
If you think about it, and then they lock the champion afterwards. So it's kind of like, you can't go, I built my team, this works. It's like, okay, well, the fact they took it from even, they actually deliberately only made it perfect veil as well is another, like there's a couple of rares you can do that have AoE veil, but there is literally, until Tutura Rhymehyde came out, I know Rector Drath does it, but there's still a condition to it. There is only one champion in the entire game that does AoE perfect veil without any form of condition. Out of 600 odd champions, we've got one, and it happens to be one of the most broken champions for, you know,
it's ridiculous. I don't have a Duchess on my account. You know, I'm still able to be successful without it. It's not like this is an impediment to being successful, but
because you got Shamael, right? If you didn't have,
no, I use Rector Draft. I don't use Shamael.
Right. So what I'm saying is if you take Rector Draft, Shamael, and Duchess, and Tatura now, because obviously everyone got it, what are you going to do?
Great. Yeah. Yeah.
You can't do anything. You haven't got a strategy. There's no champion in the game because, as you said, you can't resist it. So artifact, you know, if you think about a 3-tier decision, it's sort of like team, like an aura. Then you're going to go artifacts, and then you're going to go champions, right? Well, I can't do artifacts because I can't resist it. I can't do champions because I haven't got anything to compete with it. So my solution is buy more shards, and that's probably where you get to. That's the answer they want you to do.
I really, really, really love pulling shards though. So I'm very happy with that decision.
Do you know what? I actually want them to add more Chaos Ore, because for me, Chaos Ore is shard pulling 2.0 in terms of excitement. You put it in and you go, am I going to get my quad roll speed out of this quad roll flat stat? And
you guys probably didn't see my Chaos Ore video, because you get 2, right? Whatever. So I was like,
right?
I'll pull these on stream, right? And I put it up on YouTube because it was hilarious. So I redid both of them. They were both trash, but the best one was I did a legendary weapon in Relentless Gear. It doesn't even matter. It had a triple roll in I want to say it was Resistance and a roll in crit rate. I got the exact same stats.
Oh, you're joking.
I got like 1 extra resistance out of it. Like exact. I got all the same substats, just in a different order. Like it was just like, oh my God, like, you kidding me? Another triple roll resistance. It was just like, and that's fine. Like Chaos or all this stuff, that's great. Again, it's just they have
I actually enjoy it.
Some real mechanic issues with this rotation with Hydra. The cleanse happens too quickly. There's I like that it's tough, but like they went overboard with some of it, specifically the Torment Head and the Mischief Head. The redirect thing is good. That's not a bad thing. But the fact that it's stealing your buffs every single turn is rough. The fact that you get that, and the only way to counter that redirect is with Hex is one of the dumbest things, because Hex is it's useless. It's useless in the game. It's like saying you need bombs on that champion to do it. Like they keep trying to fix.
Because it's not it's not just the facts you have to have Hex. You actually have to do it on a place because it redirects. So if you haven't got a Hex, then unless it's an AoE ability or a place, a non-damaging one, you can't even place it. So I thought the Lessie was going to be good, and it wasn't really.
We have trash Hex champions, so there's not that one champion that's like, look, this guy's at least good in everything, so the Hex is kind of a bonus on it.
Ruel is the only one that can do it, and that's because of his passive with the Hex. Gives everyone more damage, and it drops the resistance, and it does a lot of things, right?
Ruel is still trash. I've run teams with Ruel. He's trash. Hex is not a viable strategy in this. And like the thing is, you need all 6 champions just to combat the heads. You have to have one champion dedicated to Torment, whether that's Shamael or Duchess or Rector Draft. You need at least one, if not 2, because then a lot of times you want somebody to extend that buff, or you want another person that does that or something. And then you still got to bring in all the other jazz that you're supposed to have, right? Like, ally protection, increase defense, decrease attack, decrease defense, increase speed, decrease speed, healing, did I forget damage? Oh yeah. That's kind of important too. So like, there's so many things that you still need. And, there's people that have been, what was it? Chosen been playing the game for like 2 years, and before he ever pulled the Maneater, it's not inconceivable. And he's somebody that gets shards. So, if you're saying, hey, this is something that everybody should be able to do, it's clearly not, because, if you get unlucky and you don't get Rector Draft and you don't get Shamael and you don't get Duchess, not getting Duchess, that shouldn't even be a factor, right? But Shamael and Rector Draft, like, that's two legendaries. One of them's Void. It's very possible to go through your entire account and never get them. I still don't have Ferric in the Fat on my account. Is that my fault? I pull plenty of shards. Like, that's not on me. You know what I mean? So the fact that is happening, like, you shouldn't have to rely on those champions to be able to make it work. It's just there's some fundamental issues with how they've done this, right? Like just some fundamental issues. Like, let me resist the fear. Let me resist it at least, right? Then I have an option of how to deal with it. Make it a fear and not a true fear, for the love of God. Why wouldn't you do that? Lower even if you're going to have the misdirect with mischief, don't make it 75% chance. Like, that's just ridiculous. Make it 50, at least 50, so I have a more reasonable chance of getting it. Yeah. That extra turn mechanic on that stinking head of suffering. Yeah. You're going to eat my champion in one turn. I don't have enough time to even free them if I wanted to. Like, let's rework that maybe a little bit. Maybe like, hey, that only ticks down one of the eating things instead. It's not horribly designed. There's some really nice mechanic pieces in here, but because there's so many OP things in this, it doesn't quite work right now. And there's a few simple tweaks they could do to really make this a fun part of the game. And I think, something engageable by everybody, regardless of where your count is at. And I think that's where you want to be. Cause let's be real. If you have an end game account, you can still beat it. That's not an impediment, right? Like we see one key teams out there. We knew that was going to happen. That's not the question.
It's whether or not
it's maybe a challenge for
doing it.
What'd you say?
It's whether or not people have fun while doing it. Is my concern is it's not whether about it's too hard or too imbalanced or two things. Because like you were saying, like for me, they've just gone one step too far and everything. It's like the head of decay shouldn't be able to do a full team cleanse and give the heads 30% turn meter. Like it's like you see Lady Quillen that they just added. They deliberately reduced her damage because there's no way they're going to give her lots of damage and the turn meter buffs and everything else. Yet when the Hydra, they went the other way and it's almost like, it's not enough. Let's give them that. So I think what they've done and what they need to do is almost like make less, almost like mandatory requirements. So if the mischief head doesn't need Hex necessarily for you to, you can make it so that Hex makes it easier, not makes it required, not makes it mandatory. So make it so like, I don't know, instead of him stealing all the buffs, he'll steal one buff. And then if he's under Hex, something like that, if he, what does he do now? He steals all buffs. If he's stealing all the buffs, when you Hex him, he now only steals one buff. So you can still manage it without Hex, but at least you're not like completely, like you cannot touch the mischief head without an AoE. So I think that's what they should do. They should just look at some of the mechanics and go, is this such a hard barrier that maybe we should just peel it back a layer? Otherwise people don't enjoy it, and if that's what is going to kill the mode, it's not whether or not it's too hard or it's too imbalanced, it's are people enjoying it and engaging with the content? If not, it's dead in 6 weeks. The one thing we should give them credit for, though, they made it too hard to start. They did, which is way better than making it too easy. I feel like that was the thought process,
especially on new content.
Especially on a new thing, because we all appreciate when something gets dropped down in difficulty. We don't want it to be increased in difficulty. No. And I think they set themselves up to do that, because they have its own unique team. They have a unique team of devs working on Hydra alone, which is great. That means we should get improvements and changes happening more regularly. The other great thing is that by they're going to be adding difficulty levels. Right. So I don't know if they're going to add an easy level, but they left themselves that possibility. True. But they also will add an ultra nightmare level. We all know that. Right. That's so isn't it? Right. So but by giving themselves that room to grow, they can kind of calibrate where we're at right here. And so they can, make some tweaks and make it easier. And we'll be like, yes, thank you. Way to go.
Good job, guys.
Bravo.
You did it.
Yeah, I do think, though, the only problem with some of this is there is obviously a portion of the player base right now that got the deterrence sort of cheese strategy down very quickly. So they unlocked Ultra Nightmare very quickly, which means they can now do that much easier, which means they're getting the artifacts and Mithrala faster. So if you were one of these players who were thinking, look, in the next in the next month or two, I'm going to start preparing to push plat, but you're in a clan that doesn't have access to to Nightmare Hydra, are you now in a position where you kind of go, maybe I can't actually compete in plat until I get myself caught up, and am I now a little bit too far behind? Am I ever going to catch up? That is a bit of a concern.
I don't know if you're aware of this. This is a gacha game. You're not going to get all of them. It's kind of the design idea here. So I still, my point is, I still don't have a Duchess. Can I push into Plat? Yes, I can. You don't need Mithrala. You'll never need one champion to push it to the top level.
I'm more about the
I still don't have Ramontu. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, these are OP champions. You're not wrong about that, right? These are people that are getting OP champions. They're getting OP gear and they're getting it before everybody else. But you've never only needed Swift Parry to be able to succeed. You'll never only need these OP champions. And it's not saying that you don't still need an OP account. Like, obviously, right? You're competing against the top people in this game. But, you know, the truth of the matter is one champion isn't going to make or break your team. And Mithrala isn't so strong that she's going to make or break your arena team all by herself. I was more about
the artifact sets, to be honest, rather than Mithrala. I think Stone Skin, as you were saying, Stone Skin is going to become like probably endemic in Plat Arena in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So as people get more and more mythical and more legendary, they're just going to start making.
And that's a legitimate. That's a legitimate concern. And I honestly don't know yet. Like, I think we were just talking about Stone Skin. It's really good, but it's not 100%. It's still got its own RNG factors going with it that are, you know, I don't think it's going to, I think it's going to be the new meta, but I don't think it's necessarily going to break what we have.
Figuring out how it works with different things. Like, is it still a good idea to run high resist or not? Is it still a good idea to run reaction or not? Because obviously you technically, to what Stone Skin gives you, don't need reaction or resistance because you can't get debuffed. You can't take damage. Yeah. So as long as you've got that Stone Skin, do you need any of the other stuff? So it's like kind of, I don't know how it's going to sit either, but my concern would be is obviously if you start continuing this gap of people in Gold 4 and people in Platinum, and you want a year of PvP, then you need to do something to find, you know, they talked about Gold 5 and different things like that. Then that needs to happen pretty quickly before you keep widening the gap, because now we've got reaction gear on clan versus clan, where most of the top clans are win trading so that they get best, you know, much more reaction gear. You've got top clans, basically the people who were cheesing out and doing Nightmare, now they're going to get Stone Skin. So you're going to have this kind of like, everything they're adding is widening the gap. And we need to make sure that there is a stepping stone process for players who want to get up to the top, have the opportunity. And there's not just you sit in Gold 4 and farm your gold medals, or you do Plat Arena and literally wail your backside off to get, you know, to where you need to be. So I think hopefully I hope Hydra is part of that process, that you will get more things from Hydra, which help bridge the gap between the top players and where you're at, which is kind of, you know, where players are, which is late game. I would imagine the majority of the dedicated player base are in late game. And then you've got like probably the 5%, 10% in Plat, you know, that kind of position. I
mean, yeah, you know, once I don't think that's wrong. You know, there's definitely, I mean, they don't balance the games particularly well when they do stuff like this. Like Swift Parry is like a, you know, pain in the ass thing. They love their RNG, which is all just, we all hate it, but you know, it's what it is. I don't know that I have a real answer for that, because I think it's going to be a problem, you know, for arena pushes. Like I am not looking forward to trying to push for Platinum in 3 months. You know, like I won't have the Stone Skin that some other people will. It's going to be a problem. But, you know, one of the things I try never to do is underestimate the ingenuity of our player base. So every time they've come up with something, somebody comes up with a counter for it.
And we are getting decreased resistance and increased resistance buffs. It's in the game now. We haven't got any champions, which is a surprise to me. I don't know why the 5.1 champions didn't have the debuffs, because they were the debuff was added in that patch. Because it's in the game code now.
I think they've said quite a few times that they've got a massive backlog of champions that have been designed. These I don't think these are fresh champions. They've been in the work for a while.
This decreased resistance and decreased accuracy debuff and buff could massively change the way things work. Because I mean, if you can suddenly find a champion that can start you with an extra 500 resistance, like Mithrala, as an example, like what does that do to your decision making and the way the game works? If we've got a decreased resistance for,
well, I guess here's the point. When's the end of their tax year? Because we can work out when they're going to drop a difficult fusion, which is going to result in exactly what everyone's been waiting for. The last month of the tax year, you can see it's coming in. I'm calling it right here, right now. We will get the best fusion in history in this game 1 month before the end of the tax year.
Well, when was Brogni?
I think that's going to be next month, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that usually like February?
Yeah.
Every February they tend to drop the crazy stuff. Like that's when they drop the Rotos. That was the Rotos fusion, the Brogni fusion. It's always that. I think it's like late February and March is usually when that happens. That's a good call. I never even thought about that. Never put that together, but it's true. Like the Rotos and Brogni both came at the same time of the year. That's a good. Well, look at you.
Not just
big brain over
face,
here,
right?
Big brain over here. Smart. Start saving your shot. That's my next video. Thank you. Yeah. I've got my next video.
There you go.
Save for the next fusion. Start
Save
now.
For the financial year.
Get ready. It's gonna come. It's gonna be awesome. You're gonna want to do it.
Yeah, and we called it right here.
Put a disclaimer.
We called it right here.
Though,
it's genius.
One, you don't actually own Raid. And two, if it actually is a terrible fusion, it's not your fault.
Yeah, I'm still actually getting emails addressed to you and Simon as the director of Raid. So, yeah, dude, I wish I was joking, and that's the worst part about it. On every other day, I get a complaint about Raid directed at you and Hellhades.
You need to fix this.
As the owners of Raid, you need to fix this.
All right, you need to save those emails. We'll do a video on it. We'll save those emails. Me and Simon will do a video on it. 100%.
Coming up with you.
I've got them. Don't worry.
But I had somebody after we made that video, the first one, I think. I had somebody email me, hey, I'm looking to invest. I think I could help invest. I like where you guys are going with this, the game. I feel like there's some changes I can make in this. So I was like, man, I kind of strung them along for like an email or two. And then I just felt bad. I was like, yo, bro, this is, I mean, come on, man. This is clearly sarcastic.
It's bad, but
come on, bro.
The worst part about it is, you know,
I live in a 1-bedroom apartment, man. We can't afford Raid. Like, come on, calm yourself down.
28 million or whatever.
I was going to say, even with, you know, the amount of exposure that, you know, we've got 100,000 members on our website. You know, Simon's got 140,000 subscribers. Obviously, you've got a massive following as well. But actually, the people in this room have no more influence than any other player. When it comes to Polarium. So we would love to voice our opinions to them, but our voice is as strong as yours.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we do voice our opinions to them. We have our content creator chat where we do that regularly, painfully regularly. And I see changes happen because of that sometimes. It's very slow, and it's just how they work. Like that's the thing is,
it's a big company. At the end of the day, all of these decisions have to go up through the ladder. Yeah. And
well, in the context we have as content creators, they're not decision makers, right?
Nope.
They don't, you know, they're forwarding that email or whatever, but they're not making decisions. And if the responses I've gotten are any indication, the devs have a much stronger voice in the room as far as what gets done, because it's always like, you know, it's always like, no, that's intended, or it's not broken. Like, unless I show them video evidence of a champion being messed up, it's not wrong. It's me. It's not wrong.
I've shown
every single time.
I literally I even figured out the exact bug with Skull Lord, and it's still working as intended.
let it work as intended. It's fine.
People love it. It's fine. It's fine.
Text breakdown, exact location of bug, and I'm like, do you want to hire me as your QA team? Because I found it.
It's supposed to be there, Paul.
Working as intended.
Anyway,
do that.
Deadwood, I know you've got to stream in like 10 minutes time.
I do.
We have run over a bit here, so I do apologize.
We always do.
Obviously, thank you so much for jumping into the podcast with us this week. For everybody who's watching, I mean, as I said, he needs no introduction, but links to his channel and stuff will be down below. If you haven't already, make sure that you check out Deadwood's stuff, check out his site and Speedtunes, and sort your Clan Bosses teams out with his stuff. So but until the next episode, guys, we will see you in an episode very, very soon.